Hey, folks, good afternoon once again, and a hearty welcome back to Middle Mission. And the third part of this intriguing series entitled How to Wage Spiritual Warfare in Prophetic Times. Now, as I normally do, let me transition from part two and segue into part three with a continuation and a recap, basically, of what I stated in part two at the conclusion. That is, I pointed out that the very nature of spiritual warfare and its chief purpose is to reach God's harvest through lifestyle, friendship evangelism. Now, that's the good news concerning what God offers during difficult times to accomplish that task. Now, let's get into part three. I mentioned three things that occur during prophetic times. And it's important that we remember that: opportunities, spiritual unity, and an outpouring of God's Spirit. Now, opportunities from God come by faith. Now, opportunities are like open doors. To the church of Philadelphia, in the book of Revelations 3 and 8, the Spirit of God, speaking through the Apostle John, says, "Behold, to that particular church and to the church throughout all ages, I set before you an open door that no man can shut." But an open door, listen, beloved, is no better than the person that goes through that door, because the individual has the power of choice of free will to refuse and reject the offer and the opportunity and walk away, or to go through the door. Walking through the door will reveal what's on the other side. Now, that's common sense. A noted theologian said, if scripture sense make common sense, seek no other sense. You'll never know what's on the other side of the door if you don't walk through the door. Walking through the door reveals what's on the other side. If you don't, you may have remorse, you may have regret, and you may have guilt that you have to deal with when you see what you requested from God happen among other people, because God is not going to force us. If we don't desire to do his will, God will get someone else to do his will. So hear that very carefully. You may have those emotional, turbulent feelings if you don't obey the Lord and go through that door. However, and scripturally, human fate can curtail the promise. Okay? Our entire human nature is wrapped up in our human fate. That is to say, human fate is in our hands, but divine destiny is in God's hands. I know some have confused that in the past. We can fail in terms of making erroneous decisions out of human intellect, logic, emotions, and feelings, but human fate ends where divine destiny begins. Human fate is like walking in a circle, but divine destiny is like walking along a straight path of righteousness that leads us into God's covenant promises. So, open doors to opportunity require human risk in that sense. Humanly speaking, there is an element of risk for the person going through the door of opportunity. Therefore, going through the door requires them to take a chance that's similar to making an investment in the stock market. One of several experiences come to mind that's a part of my major testimonies. In 2002, I was convicted with a call to multi-ethnic church planting in a city. I prayed about and I mused over that calling for 2 years. In 2004, I ran into that door of opportunity and received an invitation through recruitment to go to another city to start as a multi-ethnic pastor. I did it all by faith in the midst of those 2 years. When those 2 years were up, I relocated, I moved, my wife moved, my children moved. We moved into a condo, sold our house, and lo and behold, the opportunity did not come to fruition when I expected it. But you got to learn to expect the unexpected when you seek God, because he may give you something at the right time, at the right place, when you need it the most, in a way you didn't expect. I was about to send a message to my recruiter asking when I would start because the income was dwindling, etc. And I hit send. And soon as I hit send, true story, the message came back, congratulations. And it stated when I would start, and my salary would be right at 6 digits. Are you really seeing what I'm saying? Some things regarding walking in faith requires risk. Not only risk in and of itself, humanly speaking, but it requires faith and good works. Note, I worked my way to that opportunity for 2 years. Faith without works is dead. Listen to Jeremiah for a moment, 29 and 13. We must actively seek the Lord with our whole heart. That means to be diligent in our pursuit of the promises of God. Come back for the rest of the story in part 4.